So I want to show you some of the things that I'm most proud of, some of the projects I've done that I've loved the most, and also talk about where My Carolina Garden is headed. Hi you guys, this is Nicole from My Carolina Garden. My garden is located in growing zone 8B and I am in southeastern North Carolina. Gardening serves as a major creative outlet for me, and I don't know how much time you've spent thinking about this, but I kind of think about it a lot. We choose our flowers, our plants, our color palette. We choose the placement and layout and designs of our garden, and we're constantly evolving, changing our gardens around, moving things around as we get inspired, as we find new things that we love that we want to add into our garden spaces. So what I am really excited about now is kind of visiting these awesome, great ideas and designs and layouts that we've had, some great inspirational moments and designs that we can share and talk about in an effort to not only feel inspired myself for my garden design and the choices I'm making moving forward, but also hopefully to inspire you as well. So I want to show you some of the things that I'm most proud of, some of the projects I've done that I've loved the most, and also talk about where My Carolina Garden is headed. Each year I find I kind of do one major gardening project, creating something that didn't exist before that. Yes, I'm always adding to the garden beds I have, always adding to my landscape in general, but I like to come up with one thing for that year that I can really focus my efforts on. And this year's project, which turned out to be one of my favorite things, was the creation of my shade garden. The shade garden space that was basically wasted space in my yard was an area between my back fence line and my shed, and it literally was full of weeds and kind of garbage, empty flower pots, things that didn't belong really anywhere else. And I decided, since I live on a full sun property with not a lot of options for shade gardens, that I was going to turn that space into my very first actual shade garden. I decided to do this with mainly tender plants like coleus, like caladiums, things that I knew were not going to be perennial, but I really wanted some beautiful color, especially in foliage, and caladiums and coleus are two awesome ways of doing that. So putting the shade garden together for me was a lot of fun because I got to use plants that I don't ordinarily get to use, shade loving things, etc. And I got to see those plants really transform as the months went on, because not having had experience with coleus, for example, I didn't realize just how massive it could get, and it was awesome. What ended up happening was I had my secret garden, which is defined by my blue boardwalk pathway, which was my gardening project for 2024. The shade garden ended up being an extension of the secret garden, really. So I can stand back in the shade garden area, look down the blue boardwalk, or stand on the blue boardwalk and look into the shade garden instead of looking at nothingness or gross weeds growing behind the shed or whatever. So sometimes you can take a space that is quite small and just fill it right up. And the interesting thing is, the more you put into a small space, often the bigger the space actually feels. So for 2025, my big project and my favorite project was creating the shade garden. Another garden space that is one of my favorites on my property is my greenhouse. Now, of course, my greenhouse only gets used for maybe 3 or 4-ish months in the year because I don't use it at all when the temperatures are warm. Now, the nice thing about the greenhouse is that the shape I have is large and traditional in style. So the roof is peaked. I have plenty of room to walk around even when I'm storing my plants in there. I have hosted my girlfriends in little parties inside the greenhouse, and every time I'm in love with the space. I'm not saying that I would necessarily recommend the exact style greenhouse that I have, like the specific model. I have talked about it in the past, but to refresh your memories, my greenhouse was purchased from Harbor Freight, and this is my 4th winter with it now. It costs, let's say, around $1,000. So I was looking for the size and the shape that this particular model gave me for a price point that was affordable. However, I didn't realize how much more money we were going to have to put into it to even get it to function properly. Anyway, the point is, I love this space. I don't regret buying it, but I would not buy this particular one again. However, while I have it, I'm going to make the most out of the space and continue to decorate it, whether it is for special little parties or if it is for my own personal use. I had a great time this morning. The morning light was just fabulous. And now that we are in fall, in the daylight savings time section of our year, this means the sun is rising quite early, so it's cool out. That is the most fabulous time to be in the greenhouse trying to work on artwork. So I brought all my painting supplies in there early. Like I said, the light was perfect and I could just enjoy the beautiful space. I'm surrounded by my favorite tropical flowers, my mandevilla, both red and purple. I have lots of red blooming hibiscus right now. I am loving this space. Every single time I have decorated the space or moved my plants in whatever order or fashion I've done so, every single time it comes out differently. This year, I have made a little more space for me. I have been more picky with the plants that I'm choosing to overwinter, making sure that they are valuable either in a dollar amount or rarity, and not overfilling the greenhouse space so that I can be in there and enjoy. Now, certainly, I'm going to look forward to having greenhouse chats with you as we did last year, which were a wonderful success. I will look forward to doing that in that space as well. But from between now and then, being able to make some inspirational creative choices feels amazing. And I'm excited to show you some of the footage that I've taken inside the greenhouse recently. It is about the plants. It is also about the lights, which is funny because that's something that we've talked about pretty much this whole gardening season, because I have now garden lights all around the whole backyard. What a vibe it brings to the garden space. So that has also been quite amazing. So what is my Carolina garden looking forward to for 2026? And the answer is details. We want to add more structure and more architectural interest, and therefore more details into my Carolina garden. So here's one of the ideas. This is something my husband and I are going to build together as soon as we decide on the exact design of it. You're probably familiar with the way my peninsula garden sits outside in my front yard, and the end of that garden is defined by the magnolia tree that sits right there. And then we have this gate that opens into the backyard. Well, we want to build an arbor over this gate opening so that it is more magnificent, so that you actually have somewhere to walk through as you enter into the backyard gardens. Stepping back more into the front yard, you can see I have garden beds on the left and then the peninsula garden on the right. My husband ideally wanted these two garden beds to come together more so that there was just more of a pathway, like a garden path or a smaller walkway through here. So he wants to feel much more closed in, full of glorious plants and flowers. And how could I deny him that? Am I right? Now, as you walk into this fence space, this, of course, there's no name for this garden at all that goes along the entire fence line. So somehow I feel the arbor would add interest, detail, and more levels and layers to the garden right here. So beautiful arbor. I don't know how deep it would be just yet. And I'm imagining if the arbor ends somewhere over here where my hand is, maybe there's garden benches, other things that have to go on the other side of it to keep it looking awesome. And then of course, we have the whole rest of the backyard and the pool area. Now, you know how much I can do with a small space because we just talked about the shade garden, and heck, even the secret garden was meant to use a narrow piece of land to create it. Well, what could I do with a large piece of land? My husband and I are basically looking to design something like a pergola that would fit between the house space and the pool space. Now, it wouldn't be able to mess with the sight lines to the pool exactly because I want to be able to see the pool from inside the house, through the windows, through the French doors, etc. So it would probably be tucked off to the side a little bit. So we will be coming up with the design on how to make that happen as well. But then this way, this starts changing sight lines all around the yard. So when you have your lounge chairs on one side of the pool or another, you will always have something very beautiful to look at. So while these ideas, both the arbor and the pergola, are structures that need to be built, they're both going to give me new opportunities for planting and designing. And the idea here is I want to design to the uppermost level possible for me. Now, you know my favorite gardening quote is little by little, a little becomes a lot, right? So I don't have these delusions of grandeur that all of a sudden I'm going to snap my fingers, here's an arbor, here's a million climbing roses and statues and all sorts of beautiful things. No, it is a process, and little by little, a little will become a lot. But I need the structure to be there in order to plant around it, decorate around it, increase my garden dimension, perhaps decrease the amount of lawn I have so that we have more garden paths. The idea here is to add more interest and have a lot of fun doing it. So I've had a great time creating small garden spaces already. Now it's time to try our hand at getting a little bit bigger. And of course it involves more than just me. So teamwork makes the dream work though, am I right? So our plan for 2026 is to take some of our larger grassy areas and turn them into more beautiful, detailed landscape. We're probably going to at least start the arbor in the colder months. I would say probably January or February. We don't really get snow here, but of course the temperatures could be hit or miss in terms of how comfortable it is to work outside. But the idea is the arbor will come first. Let's start creating a brand new space that way. That is really going to change my sight lines for my pool area. Once I start looking that direction to where my gate opens from front to backyard. Right now I can see a lot of houses still. And hey, this was a new construction neighborhood, so we did not have mature landscaping to start with, but it's my job now as the property owner to go ahead and change those sight lines for myself. So it could be planting trees if that's something you're interested in. I mean, the fence does it, starts the job, but now I want to create even more. And I think an arbor space with something growing over it, clematis probably, I think is just going to be glorious. So we have big plans coming up. I am forever inspired by seeing other people's gardening ideas and project ideas and seeing what is possible and what I can implement in my own yard. And that's kind of the idea here. If I can share with you and you like what I have to say, maybe this will help you as you start thinking about your gardening ideas for 2026 as well. But in the meanwhile, I've shown you some of the things that have been awesome for me so far in 2025, and I hope that you have loved them as much as I have loved putting them together. Follow me on social media to continue on with this inspirational talk and photos and videos. And until next time, you guys, happy planting.